Hey 5M, it's me, Miss Mallory, and we're going to try something new today for math, and we're going to do what's called flipping the classroom, where you get to control the pace of the lesson, so you can go through pretty quickly, or you can pause, or you can even rewind if you want to hear something again. So, as we get started though, I will be giving you some instructions to get into your notebooks and to be doing some assignments, and also to have me or Mrs. Conrad's check something before moving on to the next part of the lesson. So please make sure you do that, and then we can do this a lot more often. Have fun! From yesterday, an adjacent angle is an angle that's right next to each other. So, for example, I'm going to put some smiley faces here in adjacent angles. So this angle right here is adjacent to this angle. Okay, I can also move those smiley faces because these two are also adjacent. I can move this one over here. Those two are adjacent, or these two are adjacent. They're right next to each other. You'll also notice that they do share a common line. So these adjacent angles share this line of their angles. Okay? The next type of angle we're going to talk about is vertical angles. Vertical angles we talked a little bit about yesterday. They are angles that lie directly across from each other. They're also known as opposite angles. So in this one, I'm going to use some stars this time. These two angles are what we call vertical angles. They're opposite of each other. They do not share any common lines. The only thing they do share is this common point right here in the middle. Okay, so those are our vertical angles. I can move these vertical angles because there are two sets of vertical angles here. There's also another set here. When I describe these angles, I say that angle DBE is vertical to angle ABC. When I describe an angle, that center point is always my middle letter. Now I want you to look at page 73 in your math journal. I would like you to complete this and then get it graded by myself or Mrs. Conrad's before you continue the video. Thank you. Alright, now that you have that complete, we're going to move on to today's lesson. Today's lesson is about congruent triangles. We're actually going to look at lots of different types of triangles. Your learning target is I can identify different types of triangles. So by the end of this lesson, we'll look at lots of triangles and you should be able to decide which is which. First, let's do our math message. It's on page 75 of your math journal and it looks like this. It says, there are some small marks on the sides of some figures below. These marks show sides that are the same length. For example, in the first triangle under equilateral triangles, all sides have 2 marks. These sides are the same length. For each type of triangle below, study the examples and non-examples, then write your own definitions. Do not use your student reference book or Google, please. So look at these triangles below. Hit pause now, fill this out, and then join me back in a second. So once again, equilateral triangles, a triangle with all sides are equal and the same length. Isosceles triangle is a triangle that has at least 2 sides that are the same length. So we have a side here that are the same length. This one over here is different. And last is the scalene triangle. Scalene triangles are where no sides are the same length. So you can see 1, 2, 3, all different length sides, scalene. Now, let's move on to a right triangle. This word right here, we see a lot in math. Right means 90 degrees. 90 degrees or a square angle, it's also called. So right down here, a right triangle is one angle has a measure of exactly 90 degrees. Lots of times you'll see this little blue box that's right here, just like in our regular angles. If you see this, this makes it automatically a right triangle. Now we're going to talk about the word congruent. Congruent means when 2 figures or sides are equal. You've probably heard this a lot, similar and congruent. Congruent means that they're the exact same size, exact same shape. Similar is when they're just the same shape but maybe different size. So we're just going to talk about congruent triangles. So go ahead and open up your math journal, page 76 with me. If 2 triangles are identical, exactly the same size and shape, they are congruent to each other. Congruent triangles would match perfectly if you could move one on top of the other. So you are going to be making a copy for number 1A. Make a copy of triangle big on a blank sheet of paper. Use any of your drawing and measuring tools, but do not trace the big triangle. The sides of your copy should be the same length as the sides of the triangle big. The angles should also be the same size as the angles of triangle big. When you are satisfied with your work, cut it out and tape it in the space below. Label the vertices P, A, and L. Triangle PAL should be congruent to triangle big. If you get stuck, you're welcome to come back, but pause it now. Okay, you must be stuck. If you're stuck, try using some tools like your straight edge and compass like we used yesterday to draw our lines to make them the same length. Also, you can try measuring your angles using the protractor. All right, give it another try. All right, you're back. You must have been successful. If you haven't had your triangle checked yet, your congruent triangle, and Miss Mowry or Mrs. Conrad's, please raise your hand so you can get that checked before you move on to page 77. On page 77 in your math journal, you're going to do two things. First, A asks you to measure the sides of a triangle hot in centimeters. Write down the lengths next to the sides. Centimeters, remember, are the smaller than inches and they're on your ruler. Next part says, make a careful copy of triangle hot on a blank sheet of paper. You may use any tools except your protractor, so no protractors this time. And do not trace your triangle. When you're satisfied with your work, cut it out and tape it in the space below the triangle hot. Label the vertices R-E-D, so it's red hot. So here's your assignment. Complete the rest of page 77. Use your ruler to measure the triangle to help you recreate the triangle. You may work with a partner if you would like. Make sure you understand what you're doing. When you're done with page 77, you may work on math boxes 3.6 on page 79. When you are done, check your answers with a neighbor. If you get finished with all of that, you're welcome to play math apps on the iPad. Thanks, and I hope you enjoyed this.